In the last class, we have stopped at on 2.3, that is taxable income, right? And the taxable income is equal to total assessable income minus qualifying payments and relief. We have went through the basic idea of assessable income and qualifying payment and relief. And here, yeah, I have uploaded the tables the last week. Uh, so, right here, I have explained a little bit about this table. This form. This form is called as return form, income tax return form. This is for individual, not applicable in this form to companies or other statutory bodies, right? So when you look at here, assessable income. Assessable income means the total of income, employment income, business income, investment income, and other income. So in other words, we can say these are the source of income, income source, the where the income come from, right? So the major way is employment. If someone works somewhere else, so he can get something from on his employment. By providing his service, he can generate some income. That's called income from employment income. Business income, if he doing any trading activities or buy and selling activities or manufacturing whatsoever, it's coming under the business income. Investment income, he may put his money in fixed deposit in a bank, or he can purchase shares on companies, and due to that he can receive dividend income. So that is the example for investment income. Or he or she can get a rent by providing by renting out his property or her property to third party. They can generate rent income and other income, right? None of these three coming under other income. So total of employment income, business income, investment income, and other income is called assessable income. And we can deduct some reliefs, right? The relief for primarily employment income, relief for foreign service income, relief for rent income, relief for interest income, and personal relief, right? And also we can deduct qualifying payment, right? From assessable income, we can deduct relief and qualifying payment. It will treated as taxable income, right? Here, the taxable income equal total assessable income minus qualifying payment and reliefs, right? Here 2.1, the basic reliefs and qualifying payment, right? Uh, so basic relief, right? Uh, Basic relief. Here, when you look at on this table, right, deductions, we can deduct some amount under relief, right? Relief for employment income. Yeah, how many reliefs? One, two, three, four, five different reliefs available for individual taxpayer. We look at these reliefs one by one, right? We will see first basic reliefs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? There are five. First, 500,000. 500,000 per year of assessment. Every year. Every year, starting from 1st of April, say 2020 to 31st March 2021, right? For any period, any year of assessment to any resident individual or any non-resident individual but citizen of Sri Lanka. So 500,000 for all, right? And additional 700,000, second 700,000. per year of assessment up to the total of employment income of a resident individual, right? So up to 700,000 per year of assessment up to the total of employment income. We will discuss in detail when we calculate taxable income. So there are some limits, right? Uh, then up to 1.5 million against interest income of senior citizens who is resident and citizen of Sri Lanka. Who is senior citizen? Normally we say senior citizen. Who's what the age is?
Above 60 years old.
60 is 59, I think. 59, right? 59 years old. Senior citizen. See, mm, senior citizen in Sri Lanka. Is 55. It says 55, but senior citizens above 60 years is correct. According to the tax law, senior citizen means uh, means an individual who is resident, right, over 60 years, right, is correct. What's your name? What's your name? The person who,
I'm Mashi.
very good, well done, right? The senior citizen mean his whose age is more than 60 years. So according to the previous act, it was 59 years old, right? So now according to the new act, it is age is 60. The person whose age above 60 years, uh, the person is considered as senior citizen, and the government has give some exemption for the interest income, right? Because they don't have any other source of income. No, many of them who worked any other companies or any other government sector or wheresoever, right? After 60 years, they are unable to get any employment or any other income sources. Therefore, government motivate them to put their money into the bank. Say they will get EPF claim, right? EPF, ETF, gratuity. So they will at the time of retirement, they will receive a big amount of money. Government motivate them to deposit all that money into the bank, and they will get interest, right? And the government is not charge any taxes for senior citizens up to 1.5 million interest, not deposit, interest, right? 15 lakhs per year, right? There is no tax up to 1.5 million, and amount equal to 25% of rental income received by an individual from an investment assets on account of repair, maintenance, and depreciation. Say you have an additional house, one house in Colombo, another house in Kandy. So we can at a time we can reside in one house. Then another house you can use for generating income in the form of rent, right? You can provide that house to third party, and you can get rent income. Due to that rent, the rented house, normally the resident of that house occupier and make some damages to that house, right? He makes some damages. So then, if as a house owner, you have to make some repairs. There are some costs. So therefore, government has given you 25% of rent income as relief. So for example, if you are received if you are receiving 100,000 as rent income for that year, 25%, how much? 25%. We have received 100,000 as rent income. So what is 25%? Equal to how much? 100,000 is rent income. 25% of 100,000, how much? How much? Nobody says answer. You can type your answer in chat box. Yes, 25,000. Yes, Yogaraja only has responded. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Then you have to taxable only 75,000. You don't need to pay tax all 100,000. Just you need to pay only 75,000. Right? 25,000 is relief. Government has relief for uh, repair and maintenance. Right? There are some depreciation now for that to recover uh, right, to meet repair, maintenance, and depreciation expenditure. Government has given you a 25% relief on your income, rent income. Then income earned in foreign currency from savings rented to any person outside Sri Lanka or to be utilized outside in Sri Lanka up to 15 million, limited to total of such income for the year. So if you are providing any services for tourists, right, and you have received income in terms of non-rupees, non-rupees mean in terms of dollar, yen, or whatsoever foreign currencies, then up to 15 million, you no need to pay tax. 15 million, right? 15 million, right? And right now we will look at qualifying payment. When you look at this income return form, deduction, under deduction, relief, right? Yeah, relief for employment, how much? We have discussed now. Just now we have discussed relief for employment income, how much? Anybody?
100,000. 700,000.
700,000 is maximum, right? 700,000 is a maximum limit. And relief for foreign service income, maximum limit, how much?
15 million.
Very good. And relief for rent income,
25% from the rent income
very
of
good.
the year.
Yes. Relief for interest income for senior citizens, how much?
1.5 million.
Good, very good. And personal relief, how much?
500,000.
Very good. Right. So those three items we have discussed now clearly. And now we move to qualifying payments. Qualifying payments. So under the qualifying payments, here there are only two categories under the qualifying payment. The first one is donation made by individual to approved charity. The second one, donation in money or otherwise to the government. Right? And first we look at part A, that is a donation made by an individual to approved charity in way of money. Right? There are some important uh, terms you have to keep in your mind. Right? First one, donation made by an individual in money, right? In money. So we can consider only money donations, right? In money. So we can't take into consider some other donations. Say we can donate furnitures, we can donate building, we can donate milk packets. So these kind of donations are not entitled as a qualifying payment, right? So important word is money. So to claim as qualifying payment, you have to provide, you have to donate, say 100,000, 200,000, 50,000, like that, right? So in terms of goods or in other ways, it is not considered as qualifying payment. The first one is donation in money. The another important words in approved charitable institution. Approved charitable institution. Right? Charitable institution. But first we will understand what is charitable institutions. Charity. So there are some organizations which are provide services to the society without expecting any profit. Without expecting any profit. Right? Non-profit organization in our society. There are a lot. But here we have to consider only approved charity. Approved charity. So, for example, in our village, we can find temples, vigara, right? Temple. So you provide a donation, say 10,000. Is that qualifying payment or not? In your village temple, you just visit and you have give them 10,000 rupees. Can you claim as qualifying payment when you pay income tax?
Can't,
Why you can't?
because it is not for institutionalized care for sick or
No,
needy.
we are not going to that detail. First, we have to understand your argument is correct, but we are not going in such detail. First, we have to understand approved charities. So there are a lot of charitable institutions out there in a society, but we have to consider whether it's approved charity or not. In our society, there are a lot of charities, but we have to consider whether does this charity, the institute, approved charity or not. Who has approved that charitable institution? Who should approve as charitable institution? Which person or who has authority to approve as a charity? Who's
Minister.
yeah, minister. Which minister?
Uh, which are those?
Minister. Which minister? There are a lot of ministers. Which ministers should approve as charitable institution? Ministry of Culture. No, not Ministry of Culture. Any other answers?
Finance.
Very good. Yes, Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance. Yeah. Ministry of Finance should recognize and they will publish that list of institute in the Gazette notification. Through Gazette notification, they will inform to the general society. So these are the approved charitable institutions like that. And also, we have to check again that institute should be provide an institutional care for sick and needy people, right? So it's mean, yeah, a charitable institution established for the provision of institutionalized institutionalized care for sick and needy people. What do you mean by sick and needy people? Sick and needy people. So there are people in our society. They are given up by their relatives, aged people, aged parents, right? They are admitted to the what called helpage. Do you know that helpage institution? An institution, helpage. So helpage is an institute which provide services to the parents, which are often like orphans. Really not, they are not really orphan, but it's like orphans, open, right? Uh, so nobody is there to take care of them. So that kind of people can go that institute, then they can take rest and do their activities. And sick people mean there are people who are blind, right? Who are blind or disabled people, so unable to walk, right, or injured. So they want support from others, right? So there are some institutes in Sri Lanka, say Helpage, right? Helpage is a well-known example, which provide uh, which provides institutional care. Institutional care, I mean, the people should be the organization should be a hostel, right? It's a host like a hostel. They can stay there. So there are people uh, to serve them, right? And also the second part, the declared by the minister as an approved charity, approved charitable institution for the purpose of this sub paragraph, subject to maximum of care, right? So the first condition is the donation in terms of money. The second condition is it should be an approved charitable institution. And also another criteria, even though they have they are an approved charity, we have to check whether such institute provide institutional care for needy people and sick people, right? And also it should be approved by the Minister of Finance. And the maximum limit. So whatsoever amount you can give them as a donation, right? But the act has give some restrictions. The restriction is 1/3 of taxable income or 75,000. So whichever is lower, the claimable amount in respect of donation to approved charities is restricted to, right? Restricted to the lower of 1/3 of taxable income or 75,000, whichever lower, that amount we have to take. So therefore, what is the maximum amount we can claim? Maximum amount we can claim how much?
75,000.
75,000 here, right? Qualifying payments. Yeah, qualifying payment under the approved charity here, approved charity, the maximum amount we can deduct 75,000. Deductible amount limited to 1/3 of taxable income or 75,000 or amount donated, whichever is lower, right? We have to compare three values. The first one is 1/3 of taxable income or 75,000 or the actual amount we have donated. So that amount will be considered here. The second one, the donation to whom? Donation to the government. Donation to the government. Donation to the government. Here, important word, in money or otherwise. You can donate to the government in as money, as rupees, or any other way. Say we can donate to the government a building or vehicle, or you can paint a government building. You can donate hospital beds, and you can donate milk packets. You can donate uh, clothes, so whatsoever, right, to the government. So donation made in money or otherwise to the government and to certain prescribed institutions is claimable at 100%, right? There is no limit. There is no upper limit for donation to the government. It means the government is motivating the citizens to donate more to the government. There's no limit. You can claim the total value of donation to the government. But unclaimed amount, if any, cannot be carried forward, right? So sometimes your donations exceed your income. Say your total taxable income is 100,000, but your donation is 150,000. So your donation has exceed. So 50,000 is additional amount, right? So this additional amount 50,000 cannot be utilized for next year. Cannot be utilized for next year. The following are the institutions mentioned in the Act, right? We checked. They are in the Act. We checked. The following are the institutions mentioned in the Act. Act mean here we checked.
Inland Revenue Act
When you see
of
the name of
2010.
number 24th of 2017 Inland Revenue Act, right? First one, the local authority. Local authority mean Pradesh Sabha, right? And Pradesh Sabha, municipal council, urban council, right? Like that. Local authority. Any higher education institutions, say universities, right? Established under the University Act, right? And the donation to the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka, or any higher education institution established under the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. So you know that the Buddhist and Pali University is a separate one. It is not established under the University Act. It is a different act, Buddhist and Pali University Act. And a fund established by the government of Sri Lanka. Example, can you say some example? A fund established by the government of Sri Lanka. Example. A fund established by the government of Sri Lanka. Which fund? At present, many people have make donation. At present,
COVID-19 fund.
yeah, COVID-19 funds, yes. And any other fund examples? President fund, right? President fund. So there are a lot of funds in lot of funds. So if you want, we can take some example. Established so you can find a lot of funds. But you can find in detail later on, right? If you want more. And the fund established by the local authority, right? Fund established by the local authority or provincial council, and which should be approved by the minister. The minister mean Minister of Finance, local authority. Some Pradesh Sabha can establish fund, right? Say for example, a drug prevention fund. Sometime it may be, and environmental protection fund. They can so these are the examples, right, for the fund established by the local authorities. And the 7F fund for the National Housing Development Authority. 7F fund, right? 7F fund. And one question comes: is there any tax qualifying payment for non-money donation to the government? So whatever the donations to the government, it may be in terms of money or non-money, is claimable. It's coming under the qualifying payment. No worries. But when we donate to the approved charity, we can consider only money donation. The donation should be in terms of money, right? But in case of government donation, no matter whether in terms of money or otherwise, goods or other services, doesn't matter. All donation can be considered as qualifying payment. And API Venuan API fund, you know why this fund has established? Why API Venuan API fund?
For
To
soldiers.
Yeah,
for the war.
to construct houses for the national heroes, soldiers, and national kidney fund. So any donations coming under these categories are considered as donation to the government, and 100% is claimable, right? And transitional provision means uh, uh, right, we have used earlier previous act number 10 of 2006 act. Now we are following number 24 of 2017 act. So there are some any things that, so the arrangements can be, the arrangement is done through this provision, so it does not relevant for us. Right, now we will move to assessable income. We will discuss in detail one by one. Right, here under the qualifying payment, what are the things available to claim under qualifying payment? What are those? There are two things. What are those?
Charitable organizations and donations for government.
Donation to the government and donation to approved charity, right? Approved charity and to the government, to the other specified institutions. Mean so the government mean, government include central government, local government, and provincial council. And other specific institution includes universities and Buddhist and Pali institutes and fund. So funds coming under government, right? Here more detail. This is not relevant for us, not come under our syllabus. Here we don't have, according to the new act, we don't have this kind of provisions, right? It's coming under number 10 of 2006 previous act. Now the text the subject text is very simple and easy to understand, right? So previous act it was very complex. Now it's easiest one. And now the total assessable income. Total assessable income. When you look at here, this is this part. Assessable income. Assessable income equal employment income, business income, investment income, and other income. Now let us look one by one. The total assessable income of an individual for a year of assessment is aggregate. Aggregate means total of the following elements: assessable income from employment, right? Assessable income from employment, assessable income from business, assessable income from investments, assessable income from any other sources. Mainly there are three: employment, business, investment, and other. According to the previous arrangement, a previous act, there was more than 13 categories. More than 13 categories. According to the new act, it's limited to three categories, four categories. Right? Inland Revenue Act states the chargeability of income tax as follows. A resident person, there are two types of people. Resident person, right? A resident person on the income from employment, business, investment, and other sources for the year of assessment, wherever the source arises. This means that is world income. world income, right? World income. So a citizen of Sri Lanka, right? A citizen can generate income in Sri Lanka as well as outside Sri Lanka. Non-resident person on income from employment, business, investment, and other sources for the year of assessment, subject to such income arises in or is derived from a source in Sri Lanka. Right? Non-resident person is liable to pay tax only on income generated in Sri Lanka only. Right? On Sri Lanka only. Non-resident person is liable to pay tax from income generated from world income. World includes both Sri Lanka as well as outside Sri Lanka. Before that, we will understand who is resident person and who is non-resident person. Resident person and non-resident person. Right. A residential status of an Sri Lanka. So normally, so we say on whom, right? We say we call whom as resident and non-resident. So normal, apart from tax, normally we say resident. Resident of Sri Lanka mean what? Citizen, no? Sri Lankan citizen, Sri Lankan. The resident normally. Non-resident mean normally we say whom. We call whom? Foreigners, isn't it? Normally we say Sri Lankan as a resident, non-Sri Lankan as non-resident. This is a common definition, but in the view of tax, in the view of Inland Revenue Act, the definition of resident and non-resident is different. Simply, a person who is living in Sri Lanka more than 183 days is a resident person, right? If the person is resides less than 183 days in a year, he is considered as non-resident, no matter whether he is citizen of Sri Lanka or non-citizen of Sri Lanka. Say for example, in your classmates, say Naveen, Mr. Naveen is a Sri Lankan. He has born in Sri Lanka, he has studied in Sri Lanka, right? And he went abroad. He went abroad, time to time he come and go, right? He went to London, right? He time to time he come to Sri Lanka and spend some days and go to Sri Lanka, go to London, right? So how we can decide whether Mr. Naveen is a resident or non-resident? How we can define? Any response from you? How can we decide Mr. Naveen is resident or non-resident? Based on days of stay. Yes, based on the number of days he has stayed. If the number of days stayed in Sri Lanka is more than 183 days, he is considered as a resident person. And if so, he should pay tax, income tax on his income generated from Sri Lanka as well as England, London, right? And the famous cricketer, say for example, Virat Kohli, right? Virat Kohli is an Indian, no? He's an Indian. Sometimes he come to Sri Lanka and he stay some days and went to back to India. Does he resident or not resident? He stay in Sri Lanka, say 190 days in that year, in a year. in a year of assessment. Virat Kohli does resident or non-resident? He is a resident. The answer is resident. Yes, Yogaraja. Resident. Because no matter whether he's Sri Lankan, Indian, or British people, what no matter. The matter is how many days he spent in Sri Lanka, right? When we count the date, the days we have to count the days, how many days he has spent in Sri Lanka. If the number of days spent in Sri Lanka exceed 183 days, then he is a resident and he is liable to pay tax, right? Mr. Naveen, right? He is a Sri Lankan. He has spent only 50 days in the year of assessment. Then we have to treat Mr. Naveen as a non-resident because he has spent less than 183 days. Therefore, we cannot consider him as a resident person, right? So no matter, right? Sri Lankan or not Sri Lankan. The matter is how many days he has spent in Sri Lanka. That's the matter, right? The taxation of an individual is based on his residential status. Residential status. The residency under the tax law is different from the general meaning of residency, right? It's different from general meaning of residency. The ambit of Sri Lankan tax legislation extends to the geographical area, right? Extends to the geographical area belonging to Sri Lanka. Therefore, Sri Lankan tax laws are applicable only to the persons based in Sri Lanka or those who receives income from Sri Lanka. Right? The geographical boundary is very important. Right? As stated in section 69, the residential status of an individual for the purpose of taxation is determined under the following criteria. The first criteria is qualitative test. Second criteria is quantitative test, right? Quantitative test and qualitative test. So we have earlier decides based on a number of days he has spent. It's coming under quantitative criteria, quantitative test. We can measure in terms of number of days they spent. Sometimes we cannot apply that quantitative test. We have to test in qualitative way too, right? If an individual resides in Sri Lanka, he shall be a resident in Sri Lanka, right? If an individual resides in Sri Lanka, he shall be a resident in Sri Lanka. The Act does not define what is mean by resides, and the Act is not clearly mentioned what means reside. Hence, need to adapt the ordinary meaning of the word for the purpose, namely to have one's normal place of abode in or at a particular place, or else reside based on whether the individual has a home regularly available, right? If a person having a home which is regularly available for the use of Sri Lanka, important word, a home regularly available for use in Sri Lanka. That person is not in Sri Lanka, right? But he's a citizen of Sri Lanka. He's not living in Sri Lanka, but he is maintaining a home in Sri Lanka for his use. At that time, that person should be treated as a resident person. In this regard, the location of individual's family, right? The location of individual's family, the location of person, the location of persons, economic and social interest, including dependence of The family on individuals for economic support, duration and frequency of visits to Sri Lanka are also important. In summary, it considers the social and economic relationship of the individual. If an individual is treated as a resident under this rule, quantitative test is not required. Right? So, for example, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, the person, he has maintained a very close relationship with Sri Lanka, but he is now residing in Australia. He is living in Australia, but he is maintaining a very close relationship, right? Every day, right? Every day, or very frequently, they are contact with their family members, right? And their friends, and they are maintaining clubs in Sri Lanka, right? So they have a very close relationship with Sri Lanka, and also he has generated income in Sri Lanka. He has a business in Sri Lanka. He has a company in Sri Lanka, but for a period of time, he is living in Australia, Sydney, for an entertainment, right? For an entertainment or any other medical purpose or whatsoever. So that time, no matter how many days he resides in Sri Lanka, right? So this time he will be treated as Sri Lanka. For example, one person, Mr. Mara Singha, right? He is a Sri Lankan. He all the time he has lived in Sri Lanka. Due to medical reason, he went to New Zealand, and they have spent more than 200 days in New Zealand. This time, is a resident of Sri Lanka or not resident of Sri Lanka?
Not resident.
He's a resident. He's a resident. He went to New Zealand for the purpose of getting medical treatment. And also he spent more than 200 days in New Zealand. But he has a close relationship in Sri Lanka. Right? So resident or not resident? When we apply qualitative test, no need to worry about quantitative test. Quantitative test means the number of days he spent in Sri Lanka. No matter. He's a resident because he is maintaining a good relationship, strong relationship in Sri Lanka. Right? Right, resident. Now the quantitative test. If an individual is present in Sri Lanka during the year and presence fall within a period amounting in aggregate 103 days or more, 103 days or more in any 12-month period that commences or ends, maybe start or ends during the year, he shall be a resident in Sri Lanka. Right? He shall be a resident in Sri Lanka. Commence, start or ends. The 12-month maybe start on that date or end on that date. It will be very confusing idea, so you don't need to confuse more, right? So keep in your mind, if any person resides in Sri Lanka more than 183 days, he is a resident, right? So to explain this complex definition of the act, we need a whiteboard and mark, right? So it's very difficult to explain in remotely, right? Residential test. If an individual is an employee or an official of the government of Sri Lanka, is an individual, is an employee or an official of a government of Sri Lanka, and his spouse is posted abroad during the year, he shall be a resident in Sri Lanka, right? Individual is employee or an official of the government, right? Say for example, ambassador, right? A diplomatic mission in South Africa, right? spouse is posted abroad during the year, he shall be resident in Sri Lanka, right? So for example, who are they? Mm, Mr. Chamari. Mr. Chamari is a So he's an ambassador for South Korea, right? He's an official person. He has passed Sri Lankan overseas examination. Government choose him as a diplomatic person of Sri Lanka. Then they appoint him as a diplomatic person, ambassador of Sri Lanka in South Korea, where he lives for all the times in South Korea, isn't it? He lives in South Korea with his family. Now, does he resident or non-resident? Resident or non-resident? He is living in South Korea on behalf of the government with family. He's a resident. He is not living in Sri Lanka, but he is maintaining a connection with government Sri Lanka, right? He's a resident. Based on types of work, a resident of individual could be decided. Based on types of work, a resident of an individual could be decided. When the official of government are posted abroad to work for a mission of the government, as I said you earlier, at, for example, Korea, South Korea, he is treated as resident. He is treated as resident irrespective of number of days. We don't worry about number of days they are spent in South Korea or not. In this case, not only employees, but their spouse, if their spouse in abroad with them, are treated as resident. Their family member also treated as resident of Sri Lanka. Yeah, Miss Jayasingh, MS34 has asked a question that one person spend more than 103 days. The criteria is 183 days, right? More than 103 days in another country, and he has made relationship with his mother country. It means that the time he want to pay tax for both countries. Yes, double pay. He should entitled to pay a double tax. So we in the last class we have discussed the foreign tax claim. The Sri Lankan government has made some agreement with other countries. If any person, any person who pays tax in other countries, they can reclaim in Sri Lanka. There are some agreement with them, right? Good question. If an individual an individual who is employed on a Sri Lankan ship, right? A person is working in a Sri Lankan ship within the meaning of the Merchant Ship Act. Right? There's an act called a Merchant Shipping Act. During the period the individual is so employed, he shall be resident in Sri Lanka, right? If any person who is working in a Sri Lankan ship, right, he may be 6 months or 8 months, 10 months in the outside boundary of Sri Lanka. It means he is not living in Sri Lanka. So how can we treat as a resident? He's a resident according to the act. According to the act, he should be treated as a resident, no matter how many days he has spent in Sri Lanka or outside Sri Lanka. Residency of an employee who works for a shipping enterprise cannot be determined by counting number of days physically present in the country, since a ship is all over the world during any year. Hence, he may be away from Sri Lanka for extended period of time. Due to that fact, residency is determined based on whether he is employed on a ship registered under the Merchant Ship Act, Sri Lanka, right? If he worked in Indian ship, no, we can't treat them as a resident of Sri Lanka, right? The person should be registered under the Merchant Shipping Act, right? And here another example of determination of resident status based on qualitative test. Qualitative test. Then you can right. Determination of resident status based on qualitative test. Juan Fernando has been transferred for 2 years to a branch of a company which is in India, right? In India. He decided not to accompany with the family since the children are schooling here and the wife is working here. Juan Fernando is working in India, but their family still in Sri Lanka. He has a permanent home available in Sri Lanka, and his bank accounts are continued to be maintained for remitting his salary to Sri Lanka. Right? He has a bank account in Sri Lanka. He has continued that account to remit salary to Sri Lanka. However, he has given up to his club membership and sold his mother car. Right? In India, he is available in India. He paid his annual membership fee to his club in Sri Lanka. While he is in Sri Lanka, he has sold a motor car in Sri Lanka. Right? He has rented out an apartment in India, and when he is free, he flies to Sri Lanka at least once in 3 months. Every 3 months, he come to Sri Lanka and stay. Now, does he a resident or non-resident? Based on qualitative test, he has maintaining a strong connection with Sri Lanka. Therefore, we can say he is a resident. He is a resident person. Resident, yes. MS12 and MS11 also says resident. Responding whether Juan Fernando is a resident of Sri Lanka requires balancing the weight of social and economic connection to Sri Lanka against his connection to India. Now we have to compare the connection between their home country and him, right? According to this given information, he is maintaining more relationship with Sri Lanka. Although he has home in India, he maintains close ties to Sri Lanka. Right? He is living in India. He is able to sell the car, sell a motor car in Sri Lanka. Right? He is maintaining connection with clubs, and he is running his bank account from India. Right? Although he has a home in India, he maintains a close ties to Sri Lanka. Hence, he is a resident of Sri Lanka. He is a resident of Sri Lanka. Now another example, uh, determination of resident status based on quantitative test. Quantitative test. Quantitative test. Just read the question. Can you understand? Can you understand this question? No, no, no. All 1890, 1980, 2021, all 3 years he is a resident according to the new act. According to the new act, he is a resident for year 2018, 19, 1920, 2021. All 3 years he is a resident. That's why I told you it's very difficult, complex concept. It is not an easy one. It is not an easy. That's why I told you to explain this. We need a whiteboard to explain. I have to draw a picture, a timeline, right? That's why I mention you here. Commencement of here. Commences or end. Commences or end. According to the previous act, exactly we say he is a resident only for the year of assessment 1920. But according to the new act, he is a resident for 1819, 1920, 2021. Right? I already uploaded this PDF file on LMS. please make a small discussion among you, right? Then we will start calculation of assessable income from employment in the next class. Meanwhile, I will send you an attendance sheet link in the chat box. Please fill and right, I have shared the attendance link with you. You can fill the attendance.